Hi, Steve Stine from Guitar Zoom here, and what I'd like to do is give you some songs that you could play with 3 chords, and not only using the same 3 chords, but using them in the same order, just to make things easy. One of the most important things I try and teach students is that along your journey of learning how to play guitar and practicing various techniques and all these sorts of things, you should be doing 2 things. Number 1, trying to make it as fun and engaging as possible for you. So every day when you want to practice again, you don't just go, oh no, I don't want to do this, right? And the second thing is to keep inspired. A lot of times when we play along with songs, it can be fun for us and it makes us motivated to want to keep going. So what I did here was I chose 3 different songs that I'm going to show you that use the 3 chords D, C, and G in various different ways, but they're using those same 3 chords in the same order over and over and over. So before I get started with the songs, I want to show you a little bit about chords if you don't know these or if you have some questions. And if you already know these 3 chords, you can certainly fast forward just a little bit and get to the songs. So first thing I want to talk about is some variety of things that we can do when we're learning how to play chords. For instance, your C might be a little bit different than my C chord, or your G chord might be a little bit different. And I don't want to worry about that because we all play things a little bit differently. Like for instance, G, if we really thought about it, G, the G chord across the entire guitar can be played all kinds of different ways. So I don't want to worry about whether or not there's 7 different ways of playing a G chord. I want you to focus on what it is that you're using. And if you don't know a G chord, I'm going to give you some suggestions, okay? That sort of thing. So let's start with D. And just look at this first chord here, okay? So D chord is played by strumming the bottom 4 strings. And what we're going to do is put our first finger on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. We're going to put our middle finger on the 1st string, 2nd fret. And we're going to put the 3rd finger on the 2nd string, 3rd fret, and we're going to strum the bottom 4. Now, if you strum a few too many, don't worry about it. You're just trying to hit the bottom 4. That's really what you're targeting for. Now, C is a chord that when it comes up, sometimes people play it differently. The standard C generally is taught like this, okay? And this is fine. There's nothing wrong with this C. You could put your first finger on the 2nd string, 1st fret. You can put your middle finger on the 4th string, 2nd fret, and your 3rd finger on the 5th string, 3rd fret. And then you would strum the bottom 5. Now, if you're just learning how to play, you might play like an easy C where you're just using your first finger on the 2nd string right there and you're just strumming the bottom 3 strings. And something like that would be just fine. And then we've got our full C like this that we could do. And again, there's lots of different variations of C. And then we've got our G chord. Now G, you'll see I'm playing G with 4 fingers. Oftentimes you'll see people play with 3 fingers, or they'll just play the first string like this. So let's talk about that for a second. The way I'm playing G is going to be like this. I'm going to put my first finger on the 5th string, 2nd fret. I'm going to put my middle finger on the 6th string, 3rd fret. I'm going to put my 3rd finger on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. And my pinky on the 1st string, 3rd fret. Okay? Now what I want to do is throw you a little loop, though, if you've never done this before. I want to show you how to play what's called a C add 9, which is a little different than the normal C chord, but we use it a lot in popular music, you know, in blues and acoustic and, you know, rock and different things like that. And basically what you can do is instead of having to go from this G chord right here and flip over to this C chord, what you can do is just keep this G as it is, and then what you do is you just drop these 2 fingers down 1 string. So you're going from G like this to C like this. And then when you want to go to your D chord, you can leave your 3rd finger where it is and use that as kind of a brace to switch over to your D chord. Okay, so we have G, C, and D. Now, again, if you play those a little differently than that, don't worry about it. So that's what I'm going to be using. Now, the order we're going to be using these chords is going to be this. We're going to go from D to C to G. That's all. The 7 songs we're going to talk about, that's all we're doing is moving from D to C to G. So if you play, you know, D to easy C to easy G or something like that, that's okay. Whatever works for you. So the first song we're going to look at is Can't You See by Marshall Tucker. Okay? If you've never heard this before, it's certainly worth going and looking up and giving it a listen since you're probably on or near YouTube anyway, right? So we've got D, and what we're going to do is we're just going to strum that D, C, G, then back to D. Now, I'm playing D for a measure, C for a measure, G for a measure, and then D for a measure. So I have to remember that I've got a D to begin with and a D to end with. Now I'm going to play it again, but this time I'm going to use the C add 9 in the middle, like this. Now, either way of playing that C would sound just fine, regardless of whether you go to a tablature or chord, website and it says to play it a certain way. What I want you to constantly remind yourself is that it's okay to change things a little bit to make it functional, to make it easier to play, instead of making everything into a hard, a chore. Now, again, I'm not saying that you don't want to learn to play C this way or C this way. There's all kinds of different things you can do depending on where you are in your journey. All I'm saying is try and remember the bottom line is here that we want to use songs to have some fun, right? To make some sort of musical connection to songs that we enjoy, to play along with, the music however we like to. So that's what we're looking for. So we've got D, C, G, back to D. Okay, now we're going to take that same idea, we're going to use it with a song called Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. Now, the unfortunate part is if you try and play along with the actual song, Guns N' Roses tunes down a half step. So you'd have to tune your guitar down a half step. If you don't know how to do that, don't worry. Maybe you can sing it, right? You're more than likely a better singer than I am. So what you can do is just play the chords and sing along. Now, we can only play the verse of this song. We won't be able to do the chorus because that's a little different. But the verse of the song would be this. Starts all over again. 4 measures, D, C, G, D. When it gets to the chorus, it goes into a different part. All right, so we've got the verse for that. The next 2 songs that we've got, the rhythm changes just slightly. We're going to be looking at Fall to Pieces by Velvet Revolver, and we're going to be looking at Blue on Black by Kenny Wayne Shepherd. And basically, they're kind of the same thing. Let's look at Blue on Black first. So Blue on Black, we're going to go... Now, there's little things that Kenny Wayne Shepherd does. We're not worrying about all that. We just want to play the song, okay? So we're going D to C and G. But what I want you to notice is that the C and the G chords, we're on those for much less time. So we're going D, then we go to C, then G, D, C, and you can see how we're running into that G right away, which is a nice time to play this C add 9, moving to that G, because it's really fast to just move those 2 fingers. Again, if you'd rather play the full C to the full G, that's okay. But you can see why it would be efficient to do it that way. Okay, Fall to Pieces is really the same thing. Unfortunately, again, slash being involved, it's a half step down again. So if you try and play along with Fall to Pieces, you're going to have to tune your guitar down a half step, or just sing it yourself and don't, okay? So we have D, same thing, same chord progression, same kind of movement, okay? And then the last 3 songs we've got are literally exactly the same thing in terms of chords, chord changes, and really even just about tempo, okay? We've got Sweet Home Alabama, Werewolves of London, and All Summer Long, Sweet Home Alabama, of course, by Lynyrd Skynyrd, Werewolves of London by Warren Zevon, and All Summer Long by Kid Rock. So they all do D, C, G, D, C, G. So if we think about like Sweet Home Alabama, you've got this kind of riff going. And again, if you're far enough along and you're playing, you should learn how to do that because it's really fun to do. But if you're not, you're just going to play D, C, G, D, C, G. Okay? Now we've got Warren Zevon. We've got Werewolves of London, that kind of thing. Again, same thing. It's D, C, G, D, C, G. And all summer long is literally exactly the same thing. So if you learn how to play those three chords, D, C, and G, with these 7 different songs, even if you took out Sweet Child of Mine and you took out Fall to Pieces, which are tuned differently, and you just play these other 5, you could play the entire song of all of these different songs, just playing that same thing. Now, if you start learning how to move those around and play them in a different order, that opens up, hundreds of other different songs that you can play as well, and you learn how to play a couple different chords. So you can see how you could keep learning more and more songs by just learning 1 or 2 different chords. But I just wanted to show you something kind of fun that you can do, a couple of different ways that you can play your chords, and a few different songs that you could look at that might be fun for you. So remember, stay positive when you're practicing, stay on track. Don't get real frustrated and then, want to quit playing. Figure out where your frustration is coming from and try and fix that, and then come on back and start practicing whatever it is you were working on. With these songs, the goal is, if you're at a stage in your playing where you're just learning how to play these chords, don't worry so much about the strumming and everything. You could just go D, C, G, 2, 3, 4, D, C, G, 2, 3, 4, right? Or, strum half notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, or quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, okay? If you were playing something like Blue on Black, then you'd have to go D, C, G, D, C, G. Minimize your strumming until you develop those chords a bit more, and then when you're feeling better about it, you can come back and strum some more. Then you can keep adding in, more stuff and keep going from there. So anyway, again, stay positive, keep practicing, and I'll talk to you soon.